Welcome back to Light Talk, where my guests can be themselves and tell their own unique stories in the metaphysical world. If you have your own unique stories, I would love to chat with you. Just email lighttalk423 at gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Let's get started. All right, go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll start up on your stories.
You, Dana? Yeah.
And welcome. Yes.
I'm excited. This is going to be fun.
Oh, it's always a blast. So I'm always excited to hear your stories.
I love talking about this subject. So, yeah, I'll just get started.
Yeah.
Let's see. My name is Preston Dennett. I am number 5 of 6 children, so I've got a pretty big family and grew up skeptical, really, of all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, all of it. Didn't really believe in it. Although I did have an interesting psychic experience as a 9-year-old kid where I knew all the answers to a game show, but never
Ooh.
really heard of psychic abilities. So I just kind of went, huh. I thought it was funny, actually, and odd. Uh, but everything changed for me with a actually quite sad incident when my mother passed away unexpectedly, very young, age 49.
Yeah.
And I was also
So
quite
sad.
young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was quite young, 19 years old. A young 19, if you know what I mean. I was not, super out in the world, I guess.
Right.
But so this hit me like a ton of bricks, as you can imagine, hit all of us in the family. It was very unexpected. But it ended up having a really interesting silver lining to it, as often tragic events do. It was about 2 weeks after she passed away. We had gone to a friend's house to have a service. And my father was driving up in the car, and I saw my mom in the front seat. Now, of course, she's passed on, so I'm thinking, well, I'm obviously delusional with grief. I'm hallucinating. This is how sad I
Yeah.
am.
Right.
But I mean, he drove up right next to me, so I was a couple of feet away, and she was in full color, and I knew it was her because she has a very good posture. Very graceful woman. And I was like, wow, this is very odd. I don't know
Right.
how to explain this.
Yeah, I'm sure it kind of freaked you out a little bit. What's going on?
It
Right.
absolutely did. And then she disappeared very slowly in a pixelating fashion. And I thought, well, I am hallucinating. I've never hallucinated. Don't do drugs.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to tell anybody this ever. And now here I am, of course, telling you.
Right.
Because in hindsight, I now realize this was probably her spirit. And it was about a year after this where things really began to become strange for me, being sort of a materialist and very scientifically minded. I was having these dreams, what I thought were just dreams, but they weren't normal because I would wake up when my mom walked into my bedroom and I would instantly like look at her in absolute shock, saying, "Well, you're died, you're dead. What are you doing here?
Right.
What's going on?" And she would smile at me and basically not so she wouldn't speak so much, but would let me know that she was fine and I should be okay. Uh, and then I would wake up for real, which was a real shock because I thought I was awake.
Right.
So
Right.
these were false awakenings. These were pre-lucid, lucid dreams.
Hmm.
And it happened over and over and over again.
Wow.
I mean, 10, 20. By the 20th time, I'm like, well, I'm either losing my mind or, I'm crazy or she's visiting me. Because I knew it in my heart that it was her.
Hmm.
Because there was a quality of her presence that was just, I mean, you could almost smell her, hear her touch. It was her.
I was
And
just going to ask if you smelt anything, if she had any perfumes or anything that you were smelling.
I can't say specifically,
Yeah.
but she did have a scent. We all do. She
Right.
she wasn't a big perfume wearer, but it was that real. So I thought, well, I know this was her, but it can't be her because there
Right.
is no such thing as life after death. We all turn to worms when we die. There's no such thing. So I was at a crossroads in my own mind, really trying to figure out what's going on here. So I thought, maybe this is a thing. Maybe I should check out some books on dreams and see if I'm going crazy. And of course, some dream books did talk about this. Most did not. I ended up throwing away most books on dreams because they were just not accurate. I ended up
Right.
really diving deep into the whole study of dreams.
Mhm.
I wrote on every dream I ever had. I interviewed people about their dreams. So I was going to figure
Yes.
out one way or
Right.
another. Of course, I stumbled on the subject of lucid dreaming, waking up within the dream. Thought, well, this is kind of what I'm doing, but I could not initiate it. It was always spontaneous.
Right.
And then I had the great fortune to pick up a book by Robert Monroe called Out of Body Journeys, followed up by Far Journeys and the Ultimate Journey. 3 books. But that first book changed everything for me because Robert Monroe, he's quite well known, described his own out of body experiences, which he began having spontaneously following a heart attack, doing sleep learning, experimenting with anesthesia, of
Oh,
all
wow.
things, and
Yeah.
just described these really vivid out of body experiences. And he was clearly sincere and honest. And in the end of his book, described how anyone could do this through a process of basically meditation and visualizations and affirmations and this kind of thing. I thought, wow, this is scary. But I would love to give this a try because then I could know for sure if there is life after death. This
Right.
is a way you can experience it yourself without having to rely on, belief. You could have experiential knowledge because I wasn't raised in a religious household. I had no real, quote, faith in the afterlife. So I thought, let's give it a try. And I started doing these meditations. And I have to tell you, first week, I noticed a difference. And
Really.
I would spend a good hour each evening or morning or whenever I could, just meditating. And I immediately doubled my dream recall. And my dreams became so vivid and so real.
Wow.
And then it just ramped up from there each week. And I started to get real close. I remember I had one really odd incident where I woke up because I'd fallen asleep on the kitchen floor with my head stuck under the cabinet. And I thought, this can't
That's
happen.
that's odd.
That's what I thought. And I pulled myself to my feet and I'm like, I cannot fall asleep unless I'm in my own bed. I don't know what's going on here. I must have fallen asleep on the kitchen floor. Mind you, this is a house filled with people. This can't happen.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
so I wandered into my bedroom and plopped into bed and immediately woke up and realized, well, that was probably an out of body experience, but it wasn't conscious. I was almost there, but it finally happened shortly after this, about a month and a half into this. I had laid down, it was daytime. I was a little depressed. There was a lot going on in my life and dealing with the loss of my mother. I was still dealing with this a year and a half later. So I laid down on my stomach on my bed, middle of the day, and my whole body started to vibrate intensely. Now, if you read Robert Monroe's books or know anything about astral projection, this is called the vibratory state. You basically relax your body until you start to feel heaviness or lightness, vertigo, movement, or ultimately a kind of electric shock. And that was happening, and it was happening hard. Robert
Wow.
Monroe talked about it being a mild electric shock. It wasn't mild. It's not mild. It was very powerful. And I thought I had stuck my finger in the electric socket next to my bed, which I have, one right there, and that I was being electrocuted and I was going to die because I couldn't
Wow.
stop it. So I was
Wow.
quite frightened. And then there was a pop, and I flew out of my body, out of control, across my room, across the hallway, and into the bathroom. And I remember grabbing the countertop and looking into the mirror and not seeing my reflection.
Oh,
uh,
wow.
yes, and that's when I knew what was going on. It clicked very quickly. I said to myself, I'm doing it. I'm actually doing it. There is life after death. I'm out of body. I am doing this. Robert Monroe is right. This is amazing. And I was thrilled. I mean, I can't tell you the shift in 1 second from skeptic, non-believer, no such thing as here it is, it's happening, it's real.
It's real
So
stuff.
everything changed. I became so excited that I
Oh,
instantly got pulled back into my body. I mean, right back, like a rubber band almost. It was not super fast, but took a
fast
couple
enough.
of seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And as I'm floating back into my body, I saw someone in my room. I'm like, who is that? A short person. And I couldn't make it out because my vision was not normal. It was very cloudy, somewhat blurry, very mercurial, I guess.
Okay.
A little out of focus. And I went horizontal, floating above my bed, and dropped down into my body and woke up. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I've got to try this again.
Yeah.
And so I doubled down on the meditation. And I'm working full time. I'm going to college. I'm exhausted from
Yeah.
this because I'm 21 years old about this point. So I could really only do it on weekends when I had time to sleep. But every Saturday or Sunday, I would sleep late. And this is when it would happen. And it happened the next weekend, the exact same thing. And
Wow.
then a couple of days later, I woke up and I'm standing next to my bed and I have vertigo. And I finally clear my head. I'm like, what am I doing? Did I wake up? It's pitch black, of course.
Right.
And then I look down at my bed and I'm like, there's somebody in my bed. Wait a second. That is me.
That's me.
It was me under the covers. So I couldn't
Yeah.
really see myself clearly, but you know.
Right, right.
And I got the
Yeah.
worst feeling. I was so frightened because I'm like, well, I've died. I have gone and died. And I got this absolutely dread, cold fear that this
Oh,
was it. I'm dead. And I thought, well, let's dive back into your body. It's an automatic reaction.
right.
So I dove back in and I filled it up like a jello filling a mold, kind of. I had to wiggle in and put it on and stick my hands into my body.
So
It
you
was,
actually felt kind of like jello, like a little
yeah,
movement of jello? Because I've had that too. I've had like a smidgen of that, but I was still in my body and I hadn't left or anything. But I felt the inside of my body just kind of like wiggle around.
yeah. And
So,
once you start doing this, you can turn over and you're still in your body. You can lift an arm out or jiggle around. I became very familiar with that feeling after, a while.
right, right.
So that's how it began for
Wow.
me. And I thought, this is amazing. I told my family, they're like, poor Preston. He's deluded. He thinks UFOs are real, and now he thinks he's out going out of body. I'm like, no, really? I am. So
Yeah,
they were like, oh, poor Preston. I'm like, no, poor you. You've got to try this. This is
yeah.
great. There is life after death, I'm telling you.
So, what do
But
you think it's going to be like when you do pass? Now that you've had that experience and how you're saying that, when you actually pass, do you think there's going to be a different feeling with that to where you're going to know that you've passed versus out of body?
yeah, I think I've taken the class, so to speak. So I'm going to excel. I've taken an advanced placement program to know what to expect and what will happen because you can experience this. And the fact is, we all do it every night.
Mm-hmm.
The real trick is remembering. This is what dreams are, flying dreams, certainly. Not all dreams, because we do dream and it's a hallucination. But if you can break free of that, you're having out of body experiences. We all are doing this. It's as safe as sleeping. There's the only real dangers are getting a little bit obsessed with it. No dangers of possession or anything like that, or getting locked out of your body or going too far out or anything like that. The only real obstacles are fear, laziness, and skepticism. That's what's keeping people from doing this, or the ignorance, not knowing that it is a thing. But I started doing it, and I'd pop out of my body, and I'd get so excited, I'd be like, "Yeah, I did it!" and whoosh right back in. It was a problem because it's
Yeah.
called the emotional body, and you're
Okay.
very emotional when you're out of body because you have to work through your issues. All these emotions that overcome us, whether it's greed or lust or anger or fear. prevent us from being really successful at this. For me, it was excitement. I was overjoyed. So I finally, and this took me almost a year, honestly, just learned to calm down.
Right.
And then I was able to walk through walls and explore the house, go up through the roof and fly above the house and circle around. And eventually, once you gather the courage, because it is a new experience,
Yeah. Yeah.
to able to go to your friend's house or family member or another city. I just started going farther and farther and extending it from 30 seconds to a minute, 2 minutes to 5 to 10 minutes. And it's always kind of plateaued there, but up to an hour or even all night long.
Oh,
And you
wow.
so then it started to get really interesting because exploring the world is, very interesting, but it's not where the real fun is. The real fun is on the other side. Honest to God, it
Huh.
is amazing. Because what
Yeah.
happened was my mom would appear sometimes. I'd walk out into the living room, there she was. And I would have a joyous reunion. We'd hug and we'd talk. We'd sit down on the couch, out of body, and talk. And I tried to explain this to family members and friends, and they're like, a couple believed me, my sister-in-law and my brother Mark, but no one was really interested, oddly. So I really wanted to know what the so-called heavenly realms, the other side, was like.
Yeah.
And so I would pop out of my body and I'd call for my mother, and she would never come. It was frustrating. She would sometimes come on her own volition,
Uh-huh.
but I wanted control. I wanted to get there. I wanted to see what her life was like.
Yeah.
So finally happened. I had moved out by this point, uh, and I was in a condo complex and popped out of my body and I ran into the living room, and there was a woman in my living room who I did not know, but I recognized her. She was this beautiful black woman. And I'm looking at her thinking, gosh, I know this person, but not here on, I don't know who she is. I think
Right.
she's a spirit guide. So I ran up to her. I'm like, wow, look at you. Who are you?
Right.
And she smiled, very friendly, grabbed my shoulders, spun me around, put her hand on my back, and pushed me through the wall, which was unexpected, to say the
Right.
least.
Yeah, I would have been shocked.
I was. And I popped out in another place entirely. And I'm looking around. It's daytime. There's little tables. It looks like a cafe in France. There's a little wrought iron fence. And thinking, well, I don't know when or where I'm at. This is confusing. So I'm flying around for quite some time until I remembered, I really want to see my mom. So I started calling for her, as I always do. Mom, 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 mom. I've since realized that you can just make a command like, I go to the other side now, and it works. But then I didn't know how to navigate.
Right.
I was learning, but I called for her and she appeared. And boy, it was so amazing. Because by then I'm starting to lose my hair a little bit, more than a little. I lost, and it would all come back. It was so cool because it would go whoosh, whoosh in 1
Really?
second. I had long, beautiful hair. I used to get compliments on it because, yeah, I had great hair.
Oh.
But it all comes back,
Yeah.
to this day it does. I was quite a muscular young man too, and that still comes back.
Wow.
But at any rate, she was there and she looked younger than me. So I'm like, Mom,
Oh.
oh my God.
Are you
She
really
had,
my mom?
she looks more like my sister to me, who
Oh,
happens to have
wow.
an uncanny resemblance, as being related, of
So,
course.
right. Yeah.
But she looked like she was 20, and I never knew her like that because she had me when she was 32 or so. So I always knew her pretty much as a complete um, adult.
Right.
But she grabs my hand and off we go to the other side. We hit this barrier, which is hard to describe, but it's kind of like diving into a crystal pool because you
Oh.
feel the water tension when you dive into water. It was
Uh-huh.
like that. It was a little bit of a higher energy feeling.
Hmm.
It's hard to describe, but boy, can you tell the difference because we popped out into a Japanese garden, is the best way to describe it. It was gorgeous.
Oh.
And I could spend 1,000 words trying to describe a blade of grass, and I couldn't do it because it
Wow.
glows. It glows with an inner light. and the green is it's twice the amount of green you're not, and red, blues. The air sparkles. It's crystally beautiful. And it's all got this inner light and vibration to it that is loving and divine and pure and wonderful. You could not be in a bad mood if you tried. You could
Oh.
not. It's not going to happen.
It just feels so warm. I'm like feeling, I'm almost like feeling it right now. It just so
Mm.
relaxing, so beautiful. I mean, I'm just like trying to put myself in what you're saying. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's like going over the rainbow. It's like
Oh,
from a really fuzzy black and white TV to a high definition color TV. It's like, I mean, I can't describe it. I just can't. I'm trying. But
yeah.
it's more, the best way to say it is more real than it is here. This is a pale watercolor painting all washed out, where there it is much more real. It's your true home. And my mom was laughing. I'm astonished, right? And we're flying over this beautiful green field, little brooks, there's trees. It's very much Earth-like. I once saw, again, I'm not religious, but I saw a check that someone had that was a religious check with a rainbow and all the animals
Oh, yeah.
and I thought, gosh, it looks that reminded me instantly of the heavenly realms. I'm like, wow, they actually got that accurate.
Wow.
And we landed next to this little river stream, and the water's sparkling, of course, and it's very merry. And she walks into the water. I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? She's like, come on. No, she's like, no, no, really, come in. And I walked into this water, and it's cool and it's wet, but it's different. It's
I'm
very
just like,
silky.
oh.
Oh, it's the most wonderful feeling of water. It's different. And you take your hand out, and it's no longer wet. And you put it back in, and it's wet. And she took some algae and she threw it at me. So I threw some at her because she was mischievous and playful and fun.
Nice.
So we had, she was just playing around, letting me know that because could peel it off of you and you wouldn't be dirty. And she's like, you haven't seen anything yet. Watch this. Grabbed me by the hand and we went up another level. So not to complicate things, there's a physical body, an etheric body, an astral body. But there's other bodies above this that are more subtle, more energetic. And Eastern religions have their names for it. Buddhic body, causal body, mental body, atmic body, akashic body, so forth. There's, according to them, 7. I don't know. I don't really know
Yeah.
what is going on completely, but I am experiencing it. And I know when you go up a level because it's undeniable. And we popped
Wow.
out into this absolutely exquisite place that was very energetic and very pure. And it was, how can I describe this? It was crystal. It was a crystal field with big, giant crystal boulders, amethyst,
Mm.
white crystals, crystal sand. My vision was 360 degrees, slightly nearsighted, but not there. I could see way, way off in the distance. You could zoom your vision. You could do these amazing things with your vision. My mom's sitting there on this crystal boulder, just looking at me. And I'm like, Mom, this is amazing. She's like, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah.
And she points to the ground and says, look. And so I look down, and it's these crystal sand, and it's all blazing with light, mind you. And she points to it and turns it bright orange. And I look at her and I'm like, wow, good trick. And she's like, eat it. Put it in your hand, pick some up, and put it in your mouth. I'm like, what? She's like, go ahead. And so of course I did, and I put it in my mouth, and it popped like pop rock candy.
Oh
It
my.
was so orange. It was orange, 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 and tasted so good. It was so amazing.
Was it juicy or was it a dry or it was everything of an orange?
It was
Was it
juicy.
just
It
juicy?
was an incredible juicy flavor. It wasn't like it was pouring down my throat or anything, but the flavor was absolutely unbelievable. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
that was just very brief. She took me back to that same heavenly place. There's other people there. little pathways, little benches. It's very nice. So we sat
Oh,
down on a bench and she talked to me about my life and how am I doing and all of this. And I said, I'm doing pretty good. It's been rough. And I don't remember a lot of the conversation because we talked for a while.
right.
And I learned something because when you're out there, and I've been there many, many times and met all my deceased loved ones, as they pass on, you visit them, including pets. But you get this feeling when it's time to go. There's an actual physical pull on your body. We have a silver cord and
Mhm.
it draws us back. No worries about getting lost because that will always draw you back. And I started to feel it. I didn't really know it at that time what was going on, but I'm like, ooh, what's happening? This is
Yeah,
odd.
yeah,
Yeah, she's like, well, it's almost time for you to go. I'm like, oh, well, do I have to? I don't mind staying here. She's like, no, no, you gotta go. And it started to get really strong. And she said, look in the sky. There's no shadows here. There is not a shadow. And she spelled out in clouds, love you, love you, love you. I'm like, oh, mom, I love you too. And
oh,
a giant tunnel opened up behind me, just like they describe in near-death experiences. And I've been
okay.
through that many times. Eventually, I kind of gave that up. It just went away, and I just zapped there, kind of. But it
Okay.
pulled me in, and I went through this tunnel of light, and it took a while. Or I would stop and actually created a dream book in the dream realm and wrote down my experience so I wouldn't forget it.
Really? Oh, how
It's a
cool.
Yeah, it's a dream book, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, that is, it's almost like making your notes, putting your notes in heaven so that when you come down, you already have those notes, but next time you go up. And then even those notes go in the Akashic records, I would think.
I think so. Yeah, we all have a
Wow.
book there.
Yes, we
For a
do.
life. It's really cool.
Oh, this is so awesome.
So that was a game changer for me because now I knew where it was and I could go there. And I did. And I went there all the time and the whole family's there, all of my living relatives and all my deceased ones. And we would
Wow.
have these meetings. And it was funny because my brothers and sisters who were alive would be there. They'd be like, hey, Stephen,
Oh,
do you know you're out of
really?
body? And he's like, yeah, I know. We're in the in-between place. And I'm like, really, you know? And I'm like, so you're going to remember? It's like, no. And then we got in an argument. I'm like, you're going to remember. I'm talking to you right now. I'm going to remember. She says, I don't have the ability. I'm like, how can you say that? We're here right
Oh,
now.
no.
We're all fully conscious on the other side. Whether you remember it or not, you are. Because I experienced this over and over with my family. It was frustrating. And
Yeah,
he's like, stop trying to get me to remember. I can't do it. And of course he didn't. Tried
right.
with my sister. I've tried this many times. They just aren't there yet. I don't know
Yeah,
how to explain this.
right, right.
Uh,
It is pretty hard. Because I have one sister that's not. It's so funny because she doesn't understand and she doesn't. I don't think she fully believes what we're saying, but she's had these experiences years ago because she was telling us, I have these dreams about someone getting hurt and they get hurt later after the dreams. And she doesn't believe in this, but yet she's given us, it's really interesting. It's
I
very
started to
interesting.
have precognition too.
What was
This
that?
one, I started to have precognition.
Uh huh.
These doing astral projection woke up my psychic abilities to an unbelievable degree, and I loved it.
Yeah.
But it was disconcerting at times when you would dream of, shipwrecks, and then you'd see it on the news.
Yeah.
Or, I dreamt my brother-in-law stole someone's wallet. And I'm like, oh, I know he did
Mm.
this. And he said, look I found somebody's wallet. I'm like, no, you didn't. No.
Ooh.
He was
Hey,
not,
I'm on you.
and, something would, I'd dream of haircuts or get clairvoyant visions or premonitions. It wasn't always a dream, it often was. But that was a regular thing. And telepathy too. People would be talking to me and thinking something else, and it would garble up their speech. So I'm looking at them thinking, what did you say? So I'm hearing one thing and I'm picking up another.
Right.
unless you're an
Right.
honest person, and then it's wonderful because you can you can read people.
You can
It was
focus on them.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
always not a nice thing because people don't always have the nicest thoughts.
No.
So it was like, oh, okay, oh my gosh.
Right.
But I loved that, and having clairvoyant visions and telepathy, and it was so cool. So
Yeah, that's
this all came
awesome.
with it, and I got better and better at what I would say I'd like to see a spiritual master, someone who's truly enlightened. And I would be taken to these people who are so amazingly wise and loving on the other side. And they would often give you a little, like a Japanese cone, a riddle, a little interesting little tidbit of advice.
Huh.
Or you'd be taken to spirit guides, healing temples, places of learning.
And this was all you being awake. So, for example, you're here right now, and you could just say that, and you would leave,
I would
and you
pop
would
out
be
of
there.
I would pop out of my body, and I always had a bucket list. If you have your intention, it's all about being very clear-minded and focused, and knowing what you want to do or accomplish. Otherwise, you will fall back into a dream, lickety split. So
Hmm.
every time I would go to bed, I'd be like, tonight I want to see my mom. Tonight I'd like to visit, learn a past life. I spent a year or two just doing that because that was wild. And it
Yeah.
will happen to you if you start having repeated out-of-body experiences. You will guaranteed be taken to past lives. And almost always a little traumatic
Yeah.
because we carry over a lot of fears and traumas from past lives. And often it would be the death scene. So I relived basically drowning in a shipwreck,
Hmm.
dying in the Holocaust, um, running away as an escaped slave in Civil War times, a priest. I mean, it goes way, way, way back,
Yeah. I've
but
got
so
two of them, but
interesting.
yeah, I've got two of them. One, I I committed suicide on one of them. I was a pirate, and then on another one, I was hung. I'm not exactly sure what I did, but I know I went to the general store in like the 1800s, a general store, and picked up a rifle. And then next thing I was pretty much in a tree, and I could hear the guys back behind me talking away. And then next thing I know, yeah,
It's
that's
often
weird.
the death scene, but not always.
Yeah.
I escaped as an escaped slave, and that's what I remember is the actual escape because I made it. I'm like, wow,
Right. That's exciting. I mean, that's a
it
big
was
thing.
wonderful. I was so happy.
Yeah,
And
I'm
another
sure.
time I was a Native American and I did this whole vision quest type of thing, which I recalled.
Nice.
Uh,
Nice.
but all these wonderful things you can do. Visiting deceased loved ones is probably at the top in terms of joyous spiritual transformative experiences. But I finally
That's
visited the Akashic Library too, which was not easy. That's a high
no.
level. And I kept
Yeah.
trying to I'd hit this black wall. I'd be like, I can't get through this. Finally,
Right.
I poked this little hole through, and this pure divine light came over me, and I squeezed through it. And it was the most interesting thing because we all carry some negative negativity, negative
Hmm.
feelings.
Hmm.
And as I got through there, it all was filtered out of me. No more anger, no more hatred, no more depression, none of it. And
That's so exciting.
it was so hard to stay there though, because it was
Yeah.
very high energy. I saw
Yeah.
my mom
Yeah.
there. My mom was love personified. So I wasn't surprised to see her there.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's awesome. Your mom is so loving and so wonderful, and she loves you so much that she's with you all the time, like that, with
yeah,
your travels and helping you learn and everything. That's an awesome gift. What an
yeah.
awesome gift.
So yeah, she did pass away, and it was the worst experience I've ever had. But look what it led to. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh. Because I've
Yeah.
taught people how to do astral projection, and it's something I still do. Another thing that happens is there are earthbound souls, and it's a problem here on this planet. People who are attached to Earth for a variety of reasons. They might
Hmm.
not know they're dead. They might just love their house. They might
Yeah.
be have real negative problems. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I would, once I popped out of my body, and there were three guys there who were murderers, and they were not going to leave. And they were coming at me because occasionally you encounter these people,
Right.
and
Right.
the books say, "Well, shine love and light at them." I'm like, I don't think so. I'm afraid. So I went back to my body.
Yeah.
But since I've learned how to, hold my ground, but
Right.
I, I remember reading about people who cross others over to the other side, because this is something you will be probably sort of trained or inducted or asked to do, because it is a real problem. And I thought, well, I'd like to do this. And I was taken to a little girl who had been brutally murdered and worse. And she was just this sweet thing, couldn't have been more than 6 or 7. But she was buried under a house and she was still there. And this is years and years and years have gone by. And I'm looking at her thinking, how am I going to get this girl to the other side? And so I asked her, would you like to fly? Because this is my MO. This usually works with people. They're like, really?
Right.
And you can fly? I'm like, yeah, you can. Take my hand, I'll show you. She did not trust me. And I can't blame her.
Right.
And so I'm like saying, it's okay, you can. She's like, I don't want to. I'm like,
Oh.
how about this? How about I take you to see your mommy? And her face lit up. And I said, okay. And she grabbed my hand, and I quickly went off to the other side. And I did not see her parents, and I've, read a lot about this. Often they will just go, and you can't track them.
Right.
And
Right.
I couldn't track them. I've
Right.
since gotten better at that, and I have tracked some of these people where they're going. Because
Yeah.
I've done this now many times and still am doing it. And it's always so rewarding and so interesting. I will ask them their names. Like one guy, I popped out, he's in my living room. I'm like, what's your name? He says, my name is the Dean. Oh, wow. Another time I
Welcome.
popped out, there was a little kid. He's like, hi, my name's Buster. And I was mauled by a bull. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Oh.
it broke my heart. He's 8.
Oh my
He's just this
goodness.
little
Oh.
kid. Oh,
Oh man. Yeah, that would break my heart too. Well, awesome. These are all such great stories, Preston. I'm so glad I was able to get you on the show and I know you have so many more stories because we've got you signed up for another Zoom. So we're going to get together again. So I'm excited about that. And we could take 4 hours with you. You've got so many stories. So I want to thank you so much for being with me today. And thank you for telling the audience that this stuff is real and it's great stuff. It's excellent stuff. It's so awesome to experience. So if any of you out there have any stories you would like to share, email me. Email lighttalk423@gmail.com and we'll get you on the show with your unique stories. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye.